Hello and welcome back to the She is Courageous podcast. Now, I am absolutely delighted this week because I have another guest for you. So, I am over the moon to welcome the wonderful Cheryl Sharp, who I'm going to throw in now. She is a client of mine, but that's not why she's here. So, Cheryl is a domestic abuse advocate, speaker, award winning accountant who empowers women to achieve financial independence and build a life they love. After escaping an abusive marriage herself with no income, savings, or support, she founded Pink Pig Financials back in 2014. And that was all about creating financial security while being present for her two young sons. Now, she's battled with self worth, depression, and anxiety. She's worked with a coach. She now shares her story. She is such an inspiration. She shares her story to raise awareness of domestic abuse and inspire others to take control of their future. In 2024, Cheryl also fulfilled a childhood dream of owning a horse, adding equestrian goals to her ever growing list of ambitious achievements. She, through mentoring, walks alongside women, helping them achieve success on their terms. As an accountant, she makes finance less daunting, ensuring women don't leave money matters at the bottom of their to-do list. Cheryl, your list of what you do for people is incredible. I feel like the bio hasn't done it justice in some ways. We have to try and squeeze that in, don't we? Welcome to the She is Courageous podcast. I am so delighted to have you here. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
It's such a pleasure. Now, I'm going to kick off. I always kick off these guest interviews with the same question. And here's how I word it. I would love you to tell your story. Okay. So I've read the bio, but honestly, bios always do. They tell us, the top line of what we need to know. They're not even scratching the surface, and particularly for you. So I would love you to tell us about Cheryl. I would love you to tell us who she was, where she came from, and most importantly, who she is now. Tell our lovely listeners your story, Cheryl.
Oh, wow. Where does it begin, really? So I left an abusive marriage and I was looking for a bit of financial security, financial independence, wanted my own money, not to rely on anyone else. But I also needed to have flexibility around my two boys who were 1 and 4-ish at the time. And also just again work flexibly because I couldn't rely on childcare and things like that. I couldn't afford childcare. So I took the plunge and set up my own accountancy business with the goal just to pay the bills and be happy and be there for the boys really. I went on a bit of a journey, a lot of which you was there for. And yeah, so back then I was really didn't believe in myself at all. I was thinking very, very small, to the point where I was just like, it's just me. I'll just have one other person to help me out a little bit. Don't need no more. Don't need this big thing. I'll just help a few people here and there type goal. And then I met my now husband, and he was the first person who encouraged me to think a bit bigger, dream a bit bigger, and he believed in me before I believed in myself. And it was through him, his encouragement, and everything that we suddenly thought, actually, I've got really good business here, and I could take this a bit further, and I need to stop thinking small, think a bit bigger. And that's when I decided to really take the business and go with it. In the middle there, we had a bit of COVID. And
A little bit of COVID.
that's a thing called COVID. Hit rock bottom, I would say. And yeah, I was deep in it with depression, anxiety. Really, really not in a good place. Which is when I got some support with some counselling. And not long after that, I started working with myself as well, which was amazing.
Yes.
And it was through the work that I did that I actually began to believe again in myself, built some self worth, some confidence, and actually believed that I could do what I was doing and I could take it further. And that I was good enough. Still have a few mindset wobbles. Don't know.
Who doesn't,
Um,
Cheryl? Who doesn't?
Normally now they're the bits where I know I'm striving for more and trying to go bigger or make me bigger type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so fast forward to now. I've got a team of 6 ladies who work for me on the accountancy side. I have pretty much stepped back from the day to day of the business, the accountancy business, which has enabled me to build a life more on my terms, which involve my lovely horse, who tests me in more ways than one. And I'm sure we get onto it, but a lot of the mindset techniques I have used with my riding. And I started sharing my story with abuse, which I think is the most important thing, because I'm living proof that there is life after abuse, and I want to be able to be that inspiration, be the person that I wished I'd had back then, showing other abuse survivors what is possible, how to get started, how to begin the next chapter basically, and really start dreaming and things. So yeah, I'm doing that. And literally, as we was before we come on this morning, I've been looking at a policy that I've written for employers on how they can support their employees going through abuse, and yeah, how to make them feel safe at work basically, because I think it's a really important part of what we do in training and things like that. And I'm really excited to start taking that out into the world in the next month or so, hopefully. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I mean, just wow, right? I mean, you've just given, I mean, your story in kind of 5 minutes, and again, I feel like we've not even scratched the surface. And there's so much about now that I want to talk about, because you are an absolute inspiration to so many. And obviously the work that you are really passionate about now, and I know you love Pink Pig Financials, you know, at the core of everything. Pink Pig has given you so much, and I don't just mean the practical pieces of, you know, the life and the income, but actually it's given you so much personally, because that's, you know, alongside with James. And yes, I know we've worked together for a while, but you've done this too, and I know James would say the same. But I guess it's really interesting whenever I hear you tell your story, and I obviously know your story. I think about that first part, and I was just listening to the words, you know, I took the plunge, I set up my own business. I mean, that's no mean feat, Cheryl, to set up. And I think what's really interesting, and I'd love to just kind of ask a couple of questions if I could, because I know that at that stage, I didn't know you then. You've obviously shared, and you've just shared there, you know, you didn't necessarily believe in yourself, or certainly didn't have the belief at that point of what it could become. I think what you are is a brilliant example of when your why is strong enough, you will do what you have to
Yeah.
do. And as you said, right, you started with, you know, I had 2 boys, they were 1 and 4, and I just wanted to pay the bills. And I guess I'd love to just ask you, I know that that's the reality of the situation, but if you think back to those times, now you look back, can you see maybe a slightly different version of you? And how did you keep going in those times? So before you met James, before you invested in working with a coach, and before the counselling, you know, how did you show up, take the plunge? How did you find it in you to do that?
I think I just had this determination that I wanted something better. I wanted something for myself, I wanted something better. Because I was also, initially, when I set up the business, I was also doing my final ACCA exams.
Mm.
I missed that bit out. So yeah, I was self-studying because I couldn't afford to go to college or anything like that. So I self-studied. And I think it was just a determination of, I need to do this. No, not even I need to do this. I want to do this. I want to prove, in part, to my ex that I could do it and that
Hmm.
I was capable. But I think the bigger part is I needed to prove it to myself.
Yeah.
And I'm quite a stubborn person. When I start something, I have to finish it. So yeah, starting the exams, I had to finish those, and I just had this goal of, I want those letters after my name. So that really kept me going with that. And I think with the business, it was a case of, I've got no other income. this is it. I cannot get a job. I tried employment and it was more stressful than it was worth. So stressful.
Right.
It was more stressful than being self-employed. And I think a lot of
Mm.
people would think it'd be the other way around. But for me, because I didn't have the reliable childcare and I couldn't be in London and then get a phone call from school saying no one's picked the boys up. I'd be like,
No. Yep.
it's going to take me an hour to get home type thing. So it was, yeah, it was one of them things that what I'd come from was so much more stressful. This seemed the easier way of doing it, even though it wasn't easier because I was working stupid hours. I was literally drop the boys off at school, work, pick the boys up from school, give them some dinner, carry on working while they was doing whatever they was doing, put them to bed, work up until I went to bed, and then repeat and repeat and repeat. It was tough.
But I think it just shows the strength of you that even though you might not have thought it at the time, when you talk about not having that belief in yourself, I guess, and I'm promise I'm not going to start coaching you in this call. That's not the plan at all. But there was no plan B.
No, there wasn't.
And it's interesting, isn't it? People often talk about have a plan B, but I think when it comes to running your own business, actually sometimes, and don't get me wrong, we're masters at talking ourselves out of things, but we're also masters at having to think through scenarios. But I think often in the grit that is required to run your own business, when you don't have a plan B, it's the best thing for you. It doesn't feel like it at the time,
Yeah.
but that's what drove you to do those hours, to put in everything. And it's almost like, I see, and I'm not about to go on a rant about people today, but we do see this too often, that there's almost so many options, it's easy to give up.
Yeah.
And there's a sweet spot, right? We both know that. There's sometimes when you've got to let go of something, and you just said, when I'm stubborn, I can, when I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. That yeah, but that's a strength, and that is absolutely the strength you needed in those first 5 years of starting the business,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. And I think I've got a streak, as many people have, of perfectionism. And I think a lot of that was I wanted to do it well. So it wasn't just I
Yeah.
wanted to do it, but I wanted to do it well. And I needed to prove to myself that I could do it well. And I think that played a bit of a part in it as well because I couldn't give up because that's not perfect.
It's really interesting. Now, one of the questions I was going to ask you, and I don't know if it's relevant, but I'm going to ask it and you see what comes up for you, is when you look back now, what do you think you learned about yourself in that first, let's call it the first 5 years? So, you started 2014. Was that when you first
Yes,
started the business?
2014,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you think about that first 5 years pre-COVID, what did you learn about yourself then?
I learnt loads. um, the biggest thing being that I could do it.
Mm,
Um, I think I learnt to trust my gut a bit more, for sure, because I needed to, and my gut was
mm,
always right. I think that's a brilliant life lesson for anyone, really. But yeah, definitely learnt
mm,
that, and I learnt that things weren't quite as scary as they seem. So things like I'd never been to a networking meeting before, so I'd never had to stand up in front of people and sell myself. And yeah, that first time it was super scary, but every single time afterwards, it become a little bit easier, a little bit easier. And I think that was one of the biggest things I learned that yes, things are going to be scary until you do them. And the more you do them, the less scary
mm.
they become and the easier they become. And I learned to be resourceful. I learned resourceful, if that makes sense.
I love that.
Because when you're a business owner, you've got no one to go to for help. I mean, yes, there's plenty of people you can pay for. There's plenty of people that you can everything. But actually, at the end of the day, if you've got a problem, you need to figure it out.
Yeah.
And especially then, I couldn't afford to pay people to do things for me. So if I had an issue or I didn't know something, I had to find out where I was going to find the answer from. So
Mm, mm.
yeah, it made me. I think it fueled my independence a little bit too much, maybe. To the point where
Well,
I
again,
now really struggle to ask for help. But yeah, I really did learn that about myself as well, that if I need to find an answer or I need to do something, I will be able to do it one way or another. I may kill my back while doing it, or I may completely knacker myself out, or whatever it is, but I will do it, and I can do it.
And I love that you've. I mean, I, I guess we're not going to go back into the previous part. We don't need to do that. You've shared, and thank you for so honestly sharing that you were in an abusive relationship, and actually this story starts when you came away from that and the decisions you made. But part of that was also reclaiming you, and re-believing in you and showing yourself what you were capable of. So I loved hearing you say there, actually, I learned how resourceful I am, and I learned that I am capable. And I talk about this all the time, don't I? That it's courage before confidence. Confidence comes because we see what we're actually capable of. But too many people are waiting for confidence to do the thing. And this is the She is Courageous podcast. What you did, the decision you made, and the steps you then took were truly courageous. And that's without the additional incredible layer of courage in the last 4 and 5 years of coming out and telling your story to help others. It starts with the courage that you showed, even if you didn't realize it at the time, to take that step, to start a business, to build a life that was right for you and your boys. Because, like you said, in some respects, would it have been easier to get a job? Yes, in some ways it would, but it wouldn't have been easier for you and for what you needed. And these days, listen to me, I'm so old, but but I think we live in a world now in 2025 where it is seen to be very easy to start a business. We had an entrepreneurial gold rush in COVID. I know we know it's not that easy. In fact, it's damn tough. But I think back in 2014, that was it was the exception, not the rule, to start a business. And that took huge courage. And I guess I just want to really, I know that I'll have said these words to you before, but publicly on this podcast, I just want to really applaud you for that, because it's incredible. Yeah. So let's fast forward a little bit, because you used words, you talked there about, obviously you met James, your husband, and you said, he believed in me before I believed in myself. And it's always really interesting, because often as a coach, I would be like, oh, I want you to believe in yourself. But I know that actually is the truth. I know, obviously, the story of you and James. And that then gave you that next stage of courage, which was around, actually, I've been playing small and I want to take this bigger. I want to think bigger. I want to do bigger. So as you shared, you have gone from you to a team of 6, a very successful multi-6-figure business. I would love for you to share. I mean, there's so much we could go into here. I guess what I would love for you to share, if you could, is a bit about that journey, because that's obviously been a huge journey, and it does take a lot of shift, change, courage, huge amounts of courage, learnings, mistakes, all of it. So just tell us a little bit about the journey of Pink Pig really growing, and then the shift to solo business owner, to CEO and leader of a sizable team of people.
It's been an interesting one. I think I've come at it from probably a different angle to a lot of people, because I'd never been like a manager before. I'd never led a team of people. My only experience of leadership was being led by somebody else or having a manager. So I really come into the whole being an employer, having a team thing. I don't know what the right word is, really. I don't want to say blinded, but that we'll go with that, because I can't think of anything better for that. But yeah, I came into it not really knowing what it was all about, how I could be a good leader and things like that. So I say I made some mistakes at the beginning because I wanted to be friends. I hate confrontation, which I can not expect everyone can imagine why. And I not very good at saying no or putting my foot down and things like that. So I was probably very soft with my first few employees and just wanted to be friends and get along. Not very good at delegating, so I'd ask them to do a few bits and pieces, but still do the majority of it myself. A little bit of control freak going on in there as well, because
I think every business owner can relate to that.
So yeah, really struggled with delegation and letting go, and that whole perfectionism thing came into play as well. So yeah, really struggled to get the balance right, and it took me a good few years. And even now, I'm still learning. But now I have some brilliant people around me who have got a lot more experience and share their leadership as well, including yourself as well, obviously. And it's helped me to be the leader I want to be. And I think I've more or less come into it at the approach of to be the opposite to who I had because I didn't like who I had.
Right.
Which is probably how I approach most things, to be fair. And yeah, so it's been challenging, and I think I've really, especially the last couple of years when I have really wanted to step back and I've been focusing on that journey of stepping back. What does life look like for me? I've gone through quite a few crises of not confidence, crisis of who I am. What's the word?
Yeah.
I can't think of the word. Yeah,
Identity.
identity crisis. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, who am I? What do I do? What's my role in the business? I think that was a really
Mm,
big one that I
mm,
struggled with that we worked on. Um,
mm.
and yeah, just trying to figure out who I am as this other person, this now leader of a team, leader of a business, not the one doing the doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just how to position myself as well with that as well. I think's really struggled with at times. I wouldn't say I'm getting it right now, fully, 100%. But does anyone ever get anything 100% right?
Right. And there's the bit.
Um,
I guess I want to call that out. I think anyone like that's that perfectionism
yeah,
coming out,
it
isn't it?
is.
Because I've got 20 years of team leadership under my belt, and I don't have the team the size you do, but even in year 20, I was still not getting it right all the time because we never are, because humans are very complex characters.
They are indeed. And I think
Mm,
I feel more confident now in my abilities. I know I don't have to be liked. I'd like to be liked, but I don't have to be liked. I have to be respected. And I know that my team respects me. They appreciate what we do, how I do it, why I do it, more to the point. And
yeah.
they know that when I'm asking them to do something, there's a reason behind it. And they work hard, but they get a lot back for that, as in like the flexibility and things like that, which again, I do different to a lot of other people there. So yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm sure it still will be a journey because as the next phase comes and I bring in a senior person to fully replace the bits that I'm still doing in the business, I'll probably have another freak out moment of who am I, what do I do, what's my place in
Well,
this
I think
business.
you know what? I love that you're already like, let's not plan for the freak out that hasn't come yet. But I think, I remember reading or hearing a coach somewhere say, no one will ever love your business as much as you do. It's ours.
Yeah,
We create these, I don't have children. I know you do, but, we create this baby, like, let's call it the baby that it is. And so I think that's hard, first and foremost. Second of all, and I come from the corporate world in, big corporate roles into running my own business. I went through the first transition of like, well, why is there no one here to help me with anything? Because I always had teams around me to do everything.
yeah,
And now here I am 5 years down the line. I already struggle to let go for the smaller team that I do have because it matters so much to us. And if we
yeah.
think about why this started at the core of everything, it matters to you. I guess my question I'd love to just quickly ask you is if you could go back, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently at the beginning of growing your team?
I would have really like productive things. So clear job descriptions for me and the team at each stage of the business as I was growing as a leader and I was handing things over. So yeah, complete clear job descriptions. I wouldn't try to be their friend. Obviously, I wouldn't be friendly. I wouldn't
Right.
get
Love
too
that.
close like I did at the beginning because there needs to be boundaries. So I guess set boundaries.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for me, knowing what my boundaries are, but definitely set some boundaries of it. And it's hard because I think when it's just like two of you in an office or two of you working very closely all day, every day together, it's really hard to have boundaries and like where does
Mm.
the boss
Where's
employee
the line?
stop and the
Yeah.
friends
Yeah.
begin. But yeah, knowing what I know now, I would definitely do it that way around and make sure that there was a boundary for both of us, for everyone's sake, because I think that's fair, because then they know where they stand and I know where I stand.
And I think that's so what you've said a few times there is actually it's for both sides.
Yeah.
You know, like you talked about the job description, which I remember that was a really big, like that was a bit of a light bulb moment. You know, your job was changing too. And, you know, we talk about job descriptions for the people we bring in, but we have to realize our role changes
Yeah.
every time we're bringing someone into the business too. And there was, you know, that piece, we do attach a lot of our identity to our businesses. And what we, you know, many of us, particularly when we run our own businesses, attach a lot of identity to what we achieve, the results, because we're the one that drove all of it at the very
Yeah.
beginning. So I think I love that because you're thinking about both sides. I guess the other piece, and I really love what you said there about I want to be friendly, but I don't need to be their friend.
Yeah.
And that's tough. And I think anyone listening, given that you've been so brilliantly honest about obviously the backstory, will totally understand their fear around confrontation and wanting, you know, to be liked and wanting to be friends with people. That makes total sense, really logically. And I think you probably had to go through that first experience to be where you are
Yeah.
now. But I think it's a great piece of advice for anybody who might be starting out, like, you know, take our learnings, people,
Yeah.
be really clear about job description, who's responsible for what, and that boundary
Yeah.
around friendly versus friendship. I think that's a brilliant
Yeah.
one.
And it doesn't mean that I'm not close with my team, because I am. Some, yes, closer than
No.
others, but there is a distinction there, and we both have that boundary, and it's fine. It works.
And you know, I think, look, I've got lots of friends that have worked for me over the years.
Yeah.
But it is tough to build friendships. I mean, a lot of them have become friends. Are
Yeah.
become friends. I remember, like, some people have, you know, when I've left a business, they've then said, "Can we be friends now?
Yeah.
Can I actually get in the friendship circle now?" But I think to your point, you can be really close with someone, but still not fully step into the friendship zone, because actually it does put you both at a little bit of. And when I say risk, I just mean risk of if something does occur or something does have to be dealt with, you know, it just makes it harder, doesn't it? It really
It
does.
really does. Yeah.
Yeah, love that differentiation of friendly friendship. So Pink Pig has gone from strength to strength.
Yeah.
It's grown the team, it's gone from strength to strength in terms of the business performance. And you have, over the last few years, so courageously also brought in the second part of, and let's call it part of the bigger business,
Yeah.
because, you know, there is an arm to that, and it's okay to say that. You've taken on the role of mentoring, working with survivors, women who have been through similar experiences. Just tell us a little bit about that, because I can, and I know you shared something on LinkedIn recently. We will share all of Cheryl's contact details, about, like, the full circle moment of when you first put out what I'd really like to, I can remember you saying, what I'd really like to do
Yeah.
is, and that's exactly what you're doing. So just tell us a little bit more about that work and how that's come about.
Yeah. So again, I really believe in, if things are meant to be, they'll be, and things happen for a reason. And yeah, I shared with you a few years ago that I'd love to work with other survivors. I'd love to be the person I wish I'd had back then and work with them and help them set up a business and so forth. And it took a little while to actually figure out what that looks like, and I'm still figuring it out fully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But one of my team did a training course with other people, obviously. um, she met a lady on that course, and it was really weird because they don't often, like, all the students didn't always talk to each other because it was an online course. But
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, this one time it was just the two of them on the call, so they therefore then did get to chat to each other a little bit as well, and get to know each other, what they did, and everything else. And it just turned out that this lady was the manager of a local refuge, women's refuge and centre. And yeah, Maddie shared with her about what I was looking to do, how I wanted to work with other survivors and things like that. And she's like, I need to meet your boss. So we had a call, and I shared, like, my big vision of what I'd love to do in the future if I win the lottery, or I can get funding and everything else. But
Yep.
I shared that with her, and I said, but what I want to do right now is just work with other survivors. I said, I'd love to put some kind of program together, or do this or do that. And she's like, well, we'd have you. So yeah, fast forward probably about I think we actually started talking about this not long after, near enough a year ago, I think now. And yeah, so now I'm working in our local refuge 1 day a month, and I have a program that I've been delivering. I'm helping the survivors to think about their next chapter, look at like dreaming again, managing money, learning all about money, because for some of them they've never had to look after money, they don't know anything about budgeting, things like
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
Looking at getting back to work or setting up a business or both. One of the ladies is looking to do both, which is just incredible. And yeah, it's my favourite day of the month. It really is, because I get to go
Bless
in
you.
and just work with them and see what they're doing, and seeing the difference over the last 6 months, how they've come out of themselves as well. And I can see the light bulbs turning and like appearing and things like that. They're like, oh, I can do this. And it's just, yeah, seeing them grow in confidence to the point where I've more or less had a one-on-one session last week, and just talking through her plans and what she wants to achieve and how she wants to do things. It's just like, you're going for it. And I just loved that she had that confidence in herself to do that. Yes, it's incredible. And I just want to do more of that. That's what I want to do more. But
Oh,
it's the whole, how do I how do I do this? How do I make it into business? Because the people I want to help can't necessarily always have the money to do it. So it's, yeah,
mm.
this is where I'm, well, we're working a lot on this at the
Well,
moment.
and look, I think first of all, the work you are doing is incredible, and I just listening to you, I've got goosebumps, and I can hear the joy in your voice as you're speaking, at being able to do this, at being able, like you've used those words a couple of times, like being the person that you wish you'd had because you didn't have access to that, and it's just incredible, and not only are you giving to them, but I'd love for you to just take a moment, I guess, and share. Like, how does it make you feel to be doing that? And what are you learning about you through this too?
I think I've not learned that it's my purpose, but it's reinforced and it's like confirmed this is my purpose in life. And as I said before,
Yeah.
I believe everything happens for a reason. I never understood why I went
Mhm.
through what I went through until
Yeah.
recently. Now I know, because now I can do the work I'm doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just I don't know how to describe it, but it makes me feel, I'm really proud of the ladies I'm working with. So proud of them, and it just makes me happy. Just,
Good. And I think I'm literally having a little moment, so now my words are gone. But I guess thinking about the difference you're making to them, the difference it's making for you, and yeah, I'm just sorry, I'm having a moment,
that's fine.
having a little moment for you right now. But
It makes me want to do more, and it's like every time I come
right.
away from there, I'm like, well, how can I help more? What more can I do? How can I do this, or how can I reach more people? And I want to roll it out to more refugees and women's centres. I want to take it
Yeah.
online so that those who, like me, didn't go into a refuge can still access the programme. And yeah, there's loads bubbling, and
And like you said, I believe everything happens for a reason. You always wondered why, not in a victim
no,
mentality
no,
way, but that it took a long time to be able to make sense
yeah,
of that experience in your life. And here you are now able to say, do you know what? That experience is enabling me to do this. And it fills me with joy that I can help these women. And you're an absolute inspiration to them. Of course you are. You are lived experience and not just of that experience, but also of what you've then done with your life. And look, there's a lot of women that couldn't do that, that wouldn't want to go anywhere near that space, that bring all that back up for themselves. And I think that's the bit I was trying to process. How do I say that the right way? In that just speaks volumes about your strength, your resilience. It really does. And I know it's 10 years. And I know that, the last couple of years have been about you finding what is the best way for me to be able to help other women. And it feels like you are stepping into the place where you're finding that. Now, yes, I know there's the next stage of that. Like, how do I build this further? How can I help more women? And I know that you'd love to be philanthropically in a place where you could just give it to everybody, but
Yes.
you know, there aren't many of us in those situations, right?
No, I need to find
But
a
I
rich
know
sponsor. Yeah, anyway,
if anyone is listening and knows anybody that would like to have a conversation with Cheryl about sponsoring some of the incredible, and I know you've got, you know, various thoughts and ideas around things that you could do, and I know there's some bigger vision there, and I would love for you to share a little bit of that in a minute. And I guess my point being, you know, I think it's also really important for us to be able to say that you want to help people and you want to do a really great thing, but you also deserve, and you know, we've talked about, you're an accountant as well as the advocate and mentor for women who've experienced this. You know, I think it's okay for us to say that you need to find a way to make this work for
yeah,
you as well. And I think, you know, I think too often women particularly worry about having those conversations. And I know we've had the conversation around, yes, we absolutely understand the women you want to help may not be in a position financially to invest in the way that you have been able to in the last 5 years, but you want to help them get to a place where they will be able
yeah,
to invest in themselves, whatever that looks like.
yeah,
And I guess I want to remind you, but anyone listening, that it's okay to be thinking, how do I monetize things? Because and I remember, I said this to someone recently who is, forgive me, I'm going on a little bit of a money mindset piece, but talking to someone about money mindset, and she was having similar worries about, you know, it feels wrong to be trying to monetize this when it's to help people who are struggling with something. And I said to her, so this is for all the listeners, I've probably said this to you at some point, Cheryl. The reframe on that is more money is more impact, because the more money that you are able to create in whatever way means you can help even more people.
yeah,
And so I know that's the part of the journey that you're on in the moment. How can I have more impact, but also how do I create more income? Because more income does mean more impact. It enables me to do even more. So I think what you're doing is absolutely incredible. And I would love to know, if you are okay to share, like when you think bigger and aspirationally about this work as an advocate for domestic abuse survivors, what are some of the things that you would love to achieve in the future?
not said this publicly before.
Oh, well, you don't
No,
have to if you don't want to. Don't
I'm
mean to
gonna
put you
just
on the
start putting it
spot.
out there, you know, next stage of it all and everything, next level. I would love to have some kind of like centre for women. And I know
Mhm.
men get experience it too, but my thing is I
Yep,
want to work with women.
absolutely.
Um, where they can come, they can go through the program, they can do other learning opportunities or have other learning opportunities. Things like self defense, learning how to use computers and technology. So there'd be like a library type, not library, a computer type thing place where they can use a computer if they haven't got one. Learn all the skills they need to learn, have daycare, that's very American, childcare on site.
I knew what you
Yeah,
meant.
to have childcare because one of the massive barriers is childcare. So if they could come
Yeah,
and bring their children and their children can be happily playing or doing something with other children while they're learning or doing something like co-working or anything like that, and just have this centre where it's safe and they
yeah,
can be them and think about the next steps and things. So a bit like where I'm in now, but slightly different, if that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, I absolutely love that. I'm very grateful that you've just shared that publicly, because I didn't mean to put you on the spot that way. But, you know, we both believe once you start to put the things out there, things happen. And, you know, and everyone knows I'm not woo curious, but I also believe once you start with intention, and I have no doubt, because I've known you long enough to know, if you decide something's going to happen, it will happen. I have no doubt that you will achieve that, and you're finding your way to that. So I just think it's incredible what, you know, and I love that vision. I absolutely love that vision, and what the difference that could make. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So here we are, 2025. You are well on the road to, I mean, as I say, you know, it's probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago when you first said, what I'd really love to do is, that's exactly what you're doing. You've just now said what I'd really love.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
You do it now, aren't you?
um, You've also recently fulfilled a childhood dream of owning your own horse. And I know that's come with some challenges, but I
Yeah.
guess, again, like, firstly, I'm so proud of you for it. And I love how much joy that brings you. Um, I keep asking the question, I guess 2025 Cheryl,
Yeah.
if she could go back to 2014 Cheryl, what would she say to her?
Wow. Um, I guess I was trying to find something like really powerful, really impactful to say, but I think realistically, it's keep going. You're gonna get what you want.
I that's all. Look, it doesn't need to be overthought, does
No.
it? I mean, we look at 2025 Cheryl. Like, could 2014 Cheryl have
Oh, I'd
imagined?
never. I never. Although it's been a childhood dream, I never thought I would actually have my own horse. Never in a million
Mm,
years. I never in a million years thought I'd be calling myself a CEO. Um, I never thought I'd be remarried. That I'd actually
mm,
find a man
mm,
that's nice. I
yeah.
thought that only happened to other people. Um, yeah, I never thought I'd be happy, and I am. Don't get me
You
wrong, I
are.
still have moments, obviously, everyone does. But on the whole, I
Yeah.
am happy and I'm yeah, enjoying life. Life's good.
I guess it's that piece where you just said, I never thought I'd be happy again.
No.
And not only are you happy, but you're fulfilling childhood dreams. You are living a life you dreamed of. You've created that. I know you've had support around you. You've invested in support. You've found your tribe. You've got an incredible husband. Your family are absolutely behind you 100% of the way. But I guess there's that bit about you're behind you now as well.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute joy to watch and see. And I've watched you grow so much in the short time that I've known you. Um, Cheryl, there's so much more I could sit and ask you, and I know that we are nowhere near done with the Cheryl Sharp story at all. In fact, I think in some ways this phase is only just beginning. What do you have in books?
There's
I remember Lauren Derrett, she talks about chapters of your book. So we have like the chapters, but like parts,
yeah,
don't you? I think like we're on the second act if it were a theatre
yeah.
show, right? Maybe this is the third act. Um, what is next for Cheryl Sharp, do you think?
I think it's got to be my policy. That's the thing that I think will change a lot for me and for other people.
Yeah.
And just getting into organisations and to help them support their teams, create those safe working places, and just generally be more aware. And in general, raising awareness as well, because I think that's really really key. Unfortunately, as much as I'd love to say we will stop abuse, it's not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. So just being able to create the awareness so people can go through it in a easier way with support, I think is key.
And I mean, I love the work you're doing with this policy, and I know this is the next really big goal you've got, isn't it? To get this policy, to start the ripple effect, to get this policy into the hands of organisations, to work with those organisations to embed the policy, help people understand how they can spot, help, support, know that there's somewhere to go. It might not be that you are experiencing yourself, you might see someone else going through it, but if you are experiencing it, know where to go. And you said there, I don't think we'll stop abuse, and sadly I think you're right, because this is one of those moments where we have to remember we can't change what other people do. What we can all we can ever do is change what we do. And this is all about raising awareness, which is something you're so passionate about, creating safer spaces, creating routes for people to know where to go for then, because everybody really all we can do is hope that everybody is able to take responsibility for themselves. And as I've just said those words out loud, in the very same way that there you were 12 years ago now, 11 years ago, can't count, 11 years ago, and you took absolute responsibility for you and your children, said, enough, I'm going to do something about this. And, I might not have all the answers, but this is what I'm going to do. Cheryl, I'm so proud to first and foremost call you a friend, and to call you my coachee, to be called your coach. I know we've worked together for a while. I feel honored that you chose me and you've stayed, we've stayed working together for this time, and I am in awe of everything you've achieved in the time that I've known you and before that. And I know that you are going to go on to continue creating change. I absolutely believe that the policy that you're working on is going to make such a difference. I guess I'm going to ask one more wrap up question, and then obviously ask you to share with people how can they find you. So the only other question I always ask, so I ask the one at the very beginning, tell us your story. And then at the end I say, and you've given a piece of advice to yourself, but to anyone that's listening, what would be your number one piece of advice to a woman who's listening to this right now, not necessarily who's experienced what you've experienced, just a woman who's listening to this because she wants to be a bit more courageous? What would your advice be to the listeners out there?
I think just do it. Don't overthink it and just do it, because as soon as you start to think about it, you talk yourself out of it. At least I do anyway.
We know that, don't we?
Yeah. So yeah, just, I'm going to copy Nike. Just do it.
Those words just went through my head to coin the Nike phrase, but I think that's okay. Look, they played a blinder with that one.
Definitely
But you're
did.
right.
But I think just do it. If you've got something there niggling at you, just give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work, but at least you've tried.
I love that. In fact, we had Lauren Derritt on the podcast a few weeks ago, and she said the same. Like, what's the worst that can happen? It's one of the best questions to ask ourselves. And you're a brilliant example, as she was, of, without maybe consciously asking yourself that question, really leaning into what's the worst that can happen, but more importantly, what's the best that can happen here. And you're a great example of the best stuff that can happen too. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. Yes, I know most of your story, but even today, as I've listened to you, I've learned more about you. I am proud of you, but I am also in awe of all that you do. How can people find you if they want to come and connect, follow you, find out more about your story?
I guess Instagram's probably the best place. So I am Cheryl Sharp. I had to think then.
We will put the links. We will put all the links into the show notes for all of Cheryl's platforms. So I know you're Instagram, fairly active on Instagram and LinkedIn. Do please, if this episode has been helpful for you, let us know. If it's resonated for you, if you are looking for someone to help you in the way that Cheryl was looking for someone to help her, go find Cheryl, reach out. She is incredible. She has absolutely lived this experience and is the perfect example of, you can come out the other side. You can create the life that you want for you. You deserve to create the life that you want for you. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us here on the She is Courageous podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me. So I just wanted to say one more thing. My DMs are open. So if anyone ever does want to just reach out because they haven't got, or they feel they can't speak to anybody, my DMs are open. So please do just reach out.
Thank you for that. And yeah, reiterate that we'll put all Cheryl's contacts into the show notes. So if you need someone that gets it, that you just want to start that conversation with, and I know Cheryl's got other contacts if she needs other contacts too. So yeah, drop Cheryl a DM. Let us know if this has really helped you today. Give us a share on the socials as always. Thank you so much. And I will speak to you all next week on the She is Courageous podcast.